Parashat Yitro has an inspiring lesson that appears in the first pasuk. Vayishma Yitro, and Yitro heard. Yitro was Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law, and he was like the Pope of Midian, where he worshipped every avodah zarah in the world you could think of. Nevertheless, Yitro hears something, and after he hears it, he decides he wants to become a convert. So Rashi HaKadosh Alav Shalom and all the Rabbanim want to know, like you want to know, what did Yitro, the high priest of Midian, hear that caused him to act? What gave him the incentive to join Am Yisrael? That's number one. We also know from the tefillah of Az Yashir that all the other nations of the world also heard something. As we say, Sheme'u Amim Yirgazun. What did they hear? They all heard about the Nes of Kriyat Yamsuf and Milchemet Amalek. How Bnei Israel fought against Amalek and were victorious. It was a Nes that a small nation with no artillery, no military know-how, were able to defeat a mass army that was well established. So obviously, Yitro must have heard something different than everybody else did, because nobody else converted other than him. Yitro must have heard a bigger chidush concerning these two miracles that caused him to change his entire life, because nobody else did. What did Yitro hear? She says, he heard about Kriyat Yamsuf and Milchemet Amalek. Yitro heard the same exact thing that everybody else heard. We all thought he heard something different because nobody else responded in the same way that he did. So what really was the difference between Yitro and the rest of the world? Yitro shama, he heard, veba, and he came. Everyone else also heard. And they said, oh wow, Kriyat Yamsuf, what a tremendous miracle, the God of Israel. Have a good day. Adios amigo. Goodbye. Au revoir. But Yitro was a man that when he saw the truth in front of his eyes, he acted upon it. He was a mevakesh emet. And if you seek the emet, it's not enough to know it, you have to act upon it. Imagine that, ladies. Yitro was the only person in the entire world who converted as a result of these miracles. Could you imagine? One in the whole world. There's a Gemara in Berachot that discusses a city called Mata Machsaya. Now, Rav Ashi, Alav Shalom, tells us that the people there, they were thick-hearted. Twice a year, they witnessed the glory of Torah, and never was there a convert that came out of that city. What glory of Torah did they see? During the months of Elul and Adar, the businessmen among Klal Yisrael, they would stop working and they would join the yeshivot in order to learn the halachot that pertain to these 2 months. Says Rabbi Yehuda bar Barzilai alav shalom that there used to be a pillar of fire that came down from the heavens and rested upon these yeshivot twice a year. Now imagine, what's your name? Naomi, imagine you're walking down the street in Brooklyn on Ocean Parkway, because I don't know the streets around here. Fine, name me a street around here. Cedar Lane. Okay, it's a busy street?
Yes.
Are there shuls on that street?
No.
No, so name me a West Englewood? You're walking down the street in West Englewood, and you notice that on top of the shul, of the yeshiva, there's a cloud of fire. And you see this every day for for a period of 2 months, twice a year, what would your reaction be? How would you react? Wow, this is what's going on over here? You would say, I have to investigate to see what they're doing inside that place that's causing this cloud of fire to descend, because that's not something I see on top of the Empire State Building. There must be something special going on in that place. That's what they saw. But instead, nobody asked. Twice a year, they saw the glory of Torah, and nobody ever became a convert. Emet is staring at them in the face. An open miracle is taking place right in front of their eyes. And what? In their brains, they understood it. And they even appreciated it. But that's where it ended. It didn't penetrate their hearts. We say in Alenu every day, V'yadata hayom v'hashavota el levavecha. There are 2 stages in Judaism. The first is to know, V'yadata. There has to be an awareness of God in the world and in your life. You have to know it to be true. And then after you know it, there's the clincher. Here comes the clincher. Now you have to bring the knowledge of Hashem into your heart. V'hashavota el levavecha. Chachamim inform us of a very interesting chidush. Listen to this one. The Yetzer Hara doesn't mind that you know about Torah and mitzvot. He has nothing against knowledge or you learning the truth. He doesn't care. Lefech. You know what the Yetzer Hara is against? The Yetzer Hara is not happy when you start to act upon the truth that you know. The Yetzer Hara actually prefers you know the truth, because once you know the Emet and you still rebel against the Ribono Shel Olam, then you're on a level of a mezid, that you do things on purpose, and then the punishment is that much greater, because you know, but you don't do. So he has nothing against you knowing. He'd rather you know, because if you know and you don't do, you're in trouble. Not you, Chas Shalom, but you just happen to be sitting here in the front. So the trick is, Stella, happy birthday to you. I'm going to sing you a song very soon. Once you know the truth, you've heard about Kriyat Yam Suf, you heard about Milchemet Amalek. So now what are you going to do about it? Are you going to just walk away? Yeah. Are you going to go home and do nothing? Yitro was a very important man in the eyes of the entire world. He comes along and he makes a very bold statement. He says, Ata yadati ki gadol Hashem mikol ha'elohim. Now I know that God is greater than all the other gods. Once he heard about Kriyat Yam Suf and Milchemet Amalek, he said, this little statue here isn't doing the job. This little figurine. Pelahem velo yidaberu. Enaim lahem velo yira'u. These statues, they can't talk. They can't see. He made a simple observation, and as a result, he made very serious adjustments in his life. Ladies, we should never leave a shiur Torah without asking ourselves, what did I learn? How did it impact my heart? And what do I plan to do about it? If it's only knowledge that you gain by coming to shiurim, that's not enough. You have to believe that you're coming because deep down you know that you might hear something that's going to inspire the sleeping heart into action, so that the bracha will flow down from the heavens, and then you'll merit to experience nisim in your life, just like our ancestors did during the time of Kriyat Yam Suf. Kriyat Yam Suf was a nest that went against the very laws of nature that HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up in the world. Tell me, does water have the ability to split and remain standing like a wall while you cross between it for 7 days? Yes or no? No. Do the sea creatures have the ability to remain confined within those walls without falling out as you look upon them while you cross the ocean? Jaws is looking at you. You know who Jaws is?
No.
It's a famous movie from Steven Spielberg, Jaws. The shark, Jaws.
Okay.
He's looking at you and he's not falling. That's not a nest. The Midrash says that Hashem caused fruit trees to grow out from the water so that while they cross for 7 days, they have what to eat. Hashem suspended the natural nature, teva, of the world to create a miracle for Am Yisrael. So what's the lesson? When you hear and you see and you recognize God's glorious wonders all around you, your job is to break the nature of your sleepy heart. To break the nature of you walking away unmoved. And when you show Hashem that you are willing to break your nature, then He will break nature for you and create miracles in your life. If you're suddenly inspired by something that causes some change in you, you have to ensure that that feeling doesn't cool off, because if you let it fade away, you never know if you're going to be the recipient of such a feeling ever again. Such hitorerut, such an awakening, is a gift from God. If you leave this shiur all psyched up, I'm going to make sure you do, don't worry, and you leave here inspired, you should know that it's a matana from Hashem, where Hashem placed this special spark inside your neshama that awakened the feeling of emotions in you. It's a zchut to walk away with a stimulating feeling of ruchaniut that's unfortunately very lacking in this generation. Because you could have two people sitting in the same shiur, and one walks away inspired with a motivation to grow and to achieve and to take things upon herself, and the other one walks away unchanged. What happened? They were both at the same shiur, they heard the same facts. It's because one brought to life the pasuk of Vayadata hayom v'hashevota elevavecha, and the other one just remained on the level as a Vayadata hayom. I gained the knowledge today, and that's all. Thank you for the knowledge. It was really great. She gained knowledge, but the insights didn't penetrate her heart. Where's the levavecha? She skipped that part. Let me tell you a story, because I know women like stories, about the Orbach family who made Aliyah many years ago, and they rented a 3-bedroom apartment in Yerushalayim. But when they arrived, they realized that there was still a small family living in one of the bedrooms. And the parents asked, this little family, they asked, could they stay in the apartment just a little longer until their apartment was ready? So Rebbetzin Orbach agreed on one condition. She says, look, I only ask you that while you stay here, you should please keep Shabbat holy and don't desecrate Shabbat. Don't be Shabbat. So the parents agreed, and they proceeded forward. Very nice. Sure enough, that Shabbat, when the Rabanit passed by the bedroom, she saw the guy sitting there with a pen and paper, writing a letter. She didn't know what to do. She's very upset, especially after he promised her he's going to keep the Shabbat. So she approached her son, who at that time was a young boy. He was a teenager, Shlomo Zalman. He's Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Harav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who became a Torah giant later on. And she says to him, my son, could you do me a favor and handle this situation? So Reb Shlomo approached the man and he says, you know, you had an agreement with my mother that you weren't going to be mechalel Shabbat in the apartment, and now you're going back on your word. It's not nice. So the guy looks at him like surprised, and he says, Chilul Shabbat? This is Chilul Shabbat? Oh, I didn't know. I thought Chilul Shabbat was lighting a fire. I didn't know writing a letter is considered Chilul Shabbat. What can I say? I don't have a religious background like you. So Reb Shlomo Zalman says, oh, you're right. You have a point. It's very possible that you didn't know. So really, it wasn't your fault. You didn't know. And as he began to walk away, Reb Shlomo, the guy comes running after him, and he says, wait. You probably think that I don't believe in God, right? But I want you to know that I believe in Him just as much as you do. Now, we may wonder, how could that be? The guy's writing on Shabbat. He doesn't even know he's not allowed to write on Shabbat, and he claims he knows God, and he believes in Him just as much as Reb Shlomo Zalman. It's a little hard to imagine. So he tells Reb Shlomo Zalman, come take a walk with me, and I will tell you my story. And they start walking, and he says, you see, I was a soldier who fought in the Russian army during World War I. And every once in a while, I was given permission to go back to my bunker in order to rest from the battle. And after a day of rest, then I would go back to the battlefield to fight. During that time that I was resting, I'd sit there just waiting to be called to go out for another round of fighting. And I was scared out of my wits. And I hoped I wouldn't get sent back out there again. So dangerous. So while I sat there waiting my turn, there happened to be two religious guys in the bunker with me. And I noticed that every time we had a break, they would take out a Sefer Tehillim and they would begin to recite the Psukim. And most often, after they prayed, they went out to fight with such a sense of self-confidence, without fear. So I thought, hey, this is amazing. But at the same time, I felt resentful of the fact that I wasn't religious. Every time I saw these two religious guys reciting Tehillim, I would ask myself, how come my father didn't teach me about God? Why am I lacking the basic faith that Jews have to have, like these two guys have? Why don't I feel it like they do? And he said, and it continued to eat me up inside until one day I couldn't take it anymore. And during one of the breaks from the battle, I went out of the bunker and I turned to God and I said, God, if you're on this battlefield, if you are here with me, give me a sign. Let a bullet come and hit my hand so that I won't be able to shoot a gun anymore. And then I'll know that you're with me in this battle. He says, 2 minutes later, in the silence of that moment, a single gunshot was heard and a bullet landed right on this guy's finger. And he shows Rav Orbach the finger and he says, here it is. I haven't been able to move it since that day. I saw God before me and I decided at that very moment, I'm in. Vayishma Yitro. From this day forward, I'm becoming religious. So they took me to the infirmary and I was excused from the army. And I decided, that's it, I am going to learn in the yeshiva. I'm going to go learn Torah. But as life has it, I felt I wanted to first be financially independent in order to provide for myself and my future family. I got a little bit sidetracked because I went to college and I got a degree in agriculture. And now I know how to plant tomatoes and potatoes. And then after all of that, I attended a local yeshiva. But what should I tell you, Rabbi? It wasn't the same. It was now already almost a year later, and the inspiration began to wear off, I didn't feel as excited as I was. So I dropped out of the yeshiva after a few weeks, and here I am now, working on a kibbutz. But I know God. I know Him. So young Shlomo Zalman said to this guy, what a story. If you would have held on to that moment and seized it and acted upon it rather than delaying it, great blessings would have come your way. After all, it doesn't happen often that we make a deal with God and shortly after that we witness an open miracle. But lo and behold, it happened to you. You imagine? V'yadata hayom. That man knew. What was his problem? He delayed the part of v'hashavot ha'elevavecha. But why are we discussing this today? Because we have to realize that as Jews, we have potential that we can't even begin to imagine. And often we don't even reach our fullest potential because we unfortunately don't believe enough in ourselves. Allow me to give you an example of how much potential you have. What's your name? What? Rina, listen to this, how much potential you have. In this week's Parshat Yitro sees that Bnei Israel are lined up for miles waiting to speak with Moshe Rabbeinu to ask him for advice. Yitro realizes how damaging this was to Moshe Rabbeinu's health because he's doing it day and night, he's answering questions, doesn't go to sleep. So he tells Moshe, Rina, Moshe, you can't continue to work like this. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to have to employ some assistance. You need assistance. And Yitro advised Moshe Rabbeinu to do the following. For every 1,000 people, he should assign one person to oversee their questions. That's over 600 men that are required for the job. Okay? Then he says, for every 100 people, you should have one person to oversee them. That's over 6,000 men needed for the job. You with me, Rina? And then he says, and for every 50 people, you should also get one person to supervise. That's another 12,000 people for the job. And if that's not enough, he says to him, and for every 10 people, you should also get one person to supervise. That's 60,000 men for the job. Now, the grand total of all the men employed to oversee the nation and help Moshe Rabbeinu was 78,600 men employed for this job. And what kind of men were chosen for the job, Rina? They were great shoftim. They were scholars. They were tzaddikim. Some of them were even on the level of prophecy. 78,600 men were elected for the job, and within one day, the whole system was put into place. Could you believe this? I ask you a simple question, Rina. Who was doing the job the day before? The day before, Moshe Rabbeinu was doing the job of 78,600 people. Not regular people, not minimum wage people. He did the work of 78,600 shoftim. That's unbelievable. Now you understand what potential is. You understand what potential is? Now you understand the kohot that are embedded in a person that are waiting to be unleashed into the world. It's all a matter of how you see yourself. You all have the ability to tap into the reservoir of strength, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed in your neshama and unveil your potential. And you know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you that potential? So that you should be able to fulfill your mission in life. You do understand that we all have a mission in life, right? You do know that, right? Yes or no? Or is there a question here? You do understand that there's a purpose of you coming down into this world, right? Right? It's not just to enjoy vacations or eat sushi. You do know that, right? Hashem has a higher purpose for each of you here in the world. And He gives you the potential in order to fulfill that purpose. After 120 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to ask you, what happened? I gave you so many tools in order to assist you in fulfilling your tachlit, and you come to me almost empty-handed? Makara! What happened? And why do I say empty-handed? Because when I imagine the kind of potential that we each have to fulfill our purpose versus the reality of what we accomplish, it's almost nothing. You could compare it, by the way, to a computer flash drive. You know the flash drives? A flash drive can contain a certain amount of information. For example, a 32 gig flash drive can hold up to, I think, 8,000 pictures and 10,000 songs. And that doesn't include the documents and other files. Now, if you ask the average person who owns a 32 gig flash drive, how much memory did he use? The average person, I'm not talking about a professional, an average person uses about 5 to 7 gigs out of 32 gigs. That means he still has a lot more to go before he fills up the flash drive. Do you understand the nimshal? Do you understand the nimshal? A person was created with potentials that surpass any flash drive, and yet when we reach the end of our lives, we haven't even maximized all of the potential that we were given. You see, Borei Olam has a picture of what you are supposed to look like in life. Hashem sees a finished product, and He sees your potential all laid out before Him in Shamayim. The goal in life is to match that picture that they have of you in Shamayim down here on earth. And as you fulfill your potential, you're going to get closer to that picture they have of you in the Shamayim. So the trick is that when you get up there after 120 years, you should be able to recognize yourself and say, hey, that's me. There is a spiritual passport in the heavens that marks your name, your place of birth, the places and the journeys that you are meant to travel, your challenges, everything, your journey. Your spiritual passport, just like in this world, contains a picture of what you look like. Each neshama is given an identity, just like each of your passports has a particular number, which separates you from all the other travelers. And each passport is unique to the individual, and each person uses his passport differently. Your entire mission in life is mapped out. Everything you're supposed to accomplish is imprinted and signed by the head of the heavenly consulate. All this is part of who you are. It's your spiritual identity that you're going to fulfill here on earth. But then, you go to Shamayim, and you present your passport at the gate. What happens? Nobody recognizes you. Your true identity seems to be lost. So the key to life is to use all the potential that HaKadosh Baruch Hu bestowed upon you, and then try to match the spiritual picture that's been designed for you before you came down to the world. Try and match the pictures. You're meant to fulfill your purpose in life and to reach your potential. You're supposed to utilize every day for the good in order to fulfill your mission in life. One Talmidah once asked me, she said, Kvod Rabanit, she was Israeli. The Israelis talk to me very openly. They say anything they want. She goes, מה קורה? What happens if I don't use my potential? אז מה? So I told her the following story. There's a story of the great Volozhin Rav, alav shalom, that when he finished writing one of his many holy sfarim, he made a party. He made a shiur. And he invited many Rabbanim, many Talmidim, friends and neighbors and family members. There was food, there was singing, there was dancing. And one of his Talmidim said to him, Kvod Harav, this is not the first sefer you wrote. Why are you making such a big simcha, such a big party? And the Volozhin Rav said, because something entered my mind and I wanted to celebrate. What entered my mind? He said, you see, when I was young, I was not so successful in my learning. I didn't want to learn Torah, even though my parents were pro-learning. And they got me the best tutors, and they tried to give me incentive, but I was just not interested. I was not interested. And then one day, my parents pretty much gave up on me, and I heard them saying, okay, what can we do? Maybe our son Naftali will become an honest businessman. And Baruch Hashem, shortly after that, I took my studies very seriously and I grew in my learning. But I thought to myself, what would have happened if I became an honest businessman? What if I became an honest shoemaker? What's wrong with that? I would still have done my job well. I would have cared about doing it right. I would have been an honest shoemaker. I would still have learned Torah a little bit in the morning, a little bit at night. I would have still raised my children the right way. I would still go to Shamayim, feeling very proud of myself. And I would tell God that I was able to be an honest businessman and that I was able to learn Torah and that I taught my children the ways of Hashem. But then, I would freeze in my place when HaKadosh Baruch Hu would ask me, where's the emek davar? What's an emek davar? And then the malachim would tell me, oh, that is a holy book that you are destined to write and to inspire masses. Sefer? What sefer? I'm a shoemaker. And then I would take out my spiritual passport and I would show my picture. And then they would show me the picture of what I was supposed to look like. And they would proceed to show me the thousands of Talmidim that I was meant to have. And the extensive Torah that I was supposed to learn and to teach. But I'm busy showing off what a great shoemaker I am. So he told the student, my dear student, I would have missed the boat. Baruch Hashem, that once I realized my potential, I then acted upon my potential. I didn't con myself into becoming less than what I was meant to become. That's what I told this Israeli girl. It's very interesting. But it's also very scary. Because who knows what we're going to be clobbered with over the head when we arrive at the pearly white gates. But you should know that there's no limit to what you're capable of accomplishing. A man named Shmuel once told Rabbi Israel Salanter, alav shalom, he says, Rabbi, you're talking about my potential and all of this, but in all honesty, if I had the mind of the Gaon of Vilna, the heart of David HaMelech, and your character, then I could become a great person. And Nabi Yisrael told him, no, with your mind and your heart and your character, you could become the greatest Shmuel that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to become. Because Hashem needs you all. Every single one of you has a mission. And the problem is that many of you don't realize how much power you have, how much impact you have in the world, in your own lives, and in this very community. So the first step in becoming great is believing that you are great. And that reminds me of a very cute story about a teacher who was asked to teach a class of kids that were not excelling in any of their studies. They didn't even know how to read, and they had no motivation to accomplish anything in the classroom. So before she walked into the classroom, the principal told her like this, true story. He says, listen, I don't expect much from these kids. They have zero motivation, and I don't believe they're going to amount to anything. So just consider this a good paying babysitting job. That's what he tells the teacher. Could you imagine? And the teacher walks into the classroom and she begins teaching these kids despite what the principal said. And several weeks later, she calls the principal into the classroom. And she told the children, please take out your New York Times. And she asked them to start reading out loud, and each one of them started to read so beautifully. The principal stood there, he's shocked. He says to her, how did you manage to get these dummies to learn how to read? Could you imagine how they talk? So she says, dummies? What do you mean dummies? I took out the roll call book that you gave me with the Delaney cards. In those days, you used to use Delaney cards. It's little cards used to put with the kid's name on it. I saw the Delaney cards. I studied the names of these kids. One boy, it said, had an IQ of 137. So I said to him, wow, Johnny, you are so smart. I can't believe you don't know how to read. Johnny, you're brilliant. Henry's card read that he had an IQ of 123. Henry, what a brain you have. I know you're going to be reading in no time. Class, I'm looking at your IQ scores and I see I have a bunch of geniuses over here. And I started teaching them how to read. And now look at them. Look at how much they're accomplishing. So the principal said, give me that book, give me that book. I have to see what you're talking about. It doesn't make sense. He opens the book. He takes one look at the Delaney cards. And he says to her, IQ scores! These are their locker numbers! What happened here? The teacher believed that these kids were geniuses, and the children began to believe that they were geniuses. That's how they rose to a level beyond what anybody imagined for them. When you're told you're a nothing, and you believe you're a nothing, you know what you're going to accomplish in life? Zip. Nada. Niente. Nothing. The key to success is believing in yourself and believing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu believes in you. The question we all have to ask ourselves is, will I rise to my potential and fulfill my purpose and transform myself and the world together with me? Will I transcend my physical desires and realign my neshama with what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for me? Will I ultimately choose life? The choice is yours alone. In this week's parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu commands Bnei Yisrael in the name of God, and he says, "Ve'atem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim vegoy kadosh." You Jews have an obligation to be kings and princesses. And we're sitting here wondering, kings and princes? You're kidding, right? King? Prince? Yes. Every Jew is a king and a prince. Chachamim tell us a man's kippah is his crown. He's a melech. The Gemara that he carries under his arm is his scepter. His talit is his long and regal robe. And you ladies are the queens and the princesses of Klal Yisrael. Your kisui rosh is your crowning glory. Your tzniut is your regal cape. But you have to feel that you're Banot Melech. A woman who feels like a princess, acts like a princess, talks like a princess, dresses like a princess, behaves like a... You have to rise to your potential and realize how great you are. You're a Bat Melech. You could do so much for Klal Yisrael and for your community. Because if you want miracles to happen, you have to take steps towards Hashem, not away from Him. Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian. Rashi asks, Ma shama shmu'a uba? And Yitro Kohen Midian heard. What did he hear? The same thing that the rest of the world heard. But the difference between Yitro and the rest of the world was that he actually came. Shama uba. He saw the emet and he acted upon it. Ladies, we're witnessing today a nevuah coming to life. There is a wave of hunger and thirst. So many people are thirsting for spiritual answers, for some hope that they could hold on to. And Hashem is placing sparks of hunger in those people so that they can seek the Ribono Shel Olam. Chachamim tell us that during these times before Mashiach comes, there may not be, listen to this, there may not be enough teachers to teach Torah compared to the masses that are going to want to learn Torah. Very soon, mark my words, there's going to come a time when Torah is going to be the in thing. Not the iPod, not the iPad. It's going to be a fad that will never fade away again. Torah and mitzvot. And you're going to be from those who have the inside scoop. Because you know Mashiach is coming, because I'm telling you. And therefore you could beat the rush and become the leaders of a new trend called Torah and mitzvot. Kedusha v'malchut. Start a new trend. It's in your power to affect change and inspiration, not only in yourselves, but all those around you. When you come to shiurim, to learn Torah, like here, like now, get people to come. That's a step towards realizing your potential. All you have to do is leave this room and start actualizing your mission in this world. Go out there into the world and fulfill your purpose. And don't be embarrassed to do it. Is Queen Elizabeth ashamed to be the queen? Well, maybe. But the original Queen Elizabeth, or was she proud of her royal lineage? Yes or no? Be proud of who you are. Be proud of where you come from. And know that you're heading toward great places. Seyi Ratzon, that every woman here should realize her potential, and you should believe inside yourself that you come from a nation of kings and princes. You should be proud to know that you're the daughter of the only true king, the Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the only one who counts. And very soon, He will gather us all those who came close to Him, dafka during the difficult challenges of life, all those who held on to Authentic Judaism. I'm going to repeat that again. Authentic Judaism, despite the contradicting trends out there in the world, all those who fought to uphold the Kedusha of Am Yisrael. And together, we will proudly march alongside the Melech HaMashiach as he raises the flag of redemption and brings us all home. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon.